It's preparing. It's setting it up.
Okay. I'll welcome everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, hopefully this all works. It's been a while. Welcome back to our Facebook Lives. We have something planned at least once a month. So little housework, just remember, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comments. And then what we'll normally did was we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation. And I'm going to have Kay introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself, and then she's going to begin the presentation. So we're glad to have you all back.
Great. Thank you, John Marie. I'm happy to be here. I'm not sure whether or not you can see my picture, but I'm going to be a picture through the meeting.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Let's see here. So my topic is, I wanted to talk about early migration to Indiana. How did our ancestors get here before the railroad? So this is pre-1850 migration patterns. And a little bit about me. There's a picture of me and my family, my mom and dad behind me, and my sister and nieces. And I have lived in Henry County, Indiana, pretty much all of my life. My first career was as a certified medical transcriptionist at our local acute care hospital, where I love Latin and the medical language, and I love to research. And you're always researching on, when you're a transcriptionist. I'm also, from that job, I had volunteered at our local historical society, and I became the director in 2017, and I volunteered about 4 years before that. And right now I share the directorship with our county historian, Daryl Radford. My family, the main two surnames are Fords and Ballards. So that's my dad, Doug Ford, in the back, and my mom, Marietta Ballard, right here. And then my education, right out of high school, I went to Indiana University in Bloomington, and for about 2 years. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do wasn't offered. So I got into working and then married and had my family. And as time went on, and I realized how much I enjoyed genealogy, that was what I wanted to do and what I wanted to write about and learn about. I learned of the program at Brigham Young University in Idaho. It's all online. They offer a Bachelor of Science degree in professional studies, and you can choose different certificates to add to your general ed courses. And so I chose family history and advanced family history research and entrepreneurship, and earned my Bachelor of Science degree this past July. So I could finally check that off the bucket list. And so genealogy has always been a part of my life. I've always been curious about my ancestors. And so that goes back 40 plus years. And my maternal aunt was a huge influence in sharing family history about the Ballard side with me. So she shared a lot about our Ballards, and I've learned a lot about the Fords as I've studied. That's a picture of my oldest son, Ben, and a picture of me and my younger son, Nicholas. And so why did I choose to explore early transportation? This goes back to my third great grandparents, Aaron Ballard and Nancy Pearson Ballard. They, let's see, get her pictures up there. They came here to Henry County, Indiana from Franklin County, Virginia in the year 1832. They were married in Virginia in January of 1832, and Aaron bought land in Henry County in October of 1832. So I was curious about how they got here in the 1830s when there were no trains. Did they walk? Did they ride horses? Have a covered wagon? Yeah, I wasn't sure. So I started looking into it. And one of the things that I'm super blessed to have are letters that the Ballards wrote to Virginia, and their family members wrote back. The letters from Virginia we still have, and they are at the Indiana Historical Society. So I wandered off over to the IHS, and I had those letters pulled. And in those letters was a little slip of paper. And let me go back a second. Nancy Pearson's granddaughter shared the story that Nancy had told her. She shared it with her granddaughter. So that would be equivalent to my mother's generation. What Nancy had told her about them coming to Indiana. And what was written down was they walked here from Virginia. They did have a two-wheeled cart pulled by two horses, one in front of the other. And some of their possessions were one chair, one skillet, and Nancy herself had two small books, much like the one she's holding in her hands, that are in my possession now. So it was not a lot of things, and they did walk here, but she didn't say what route they took. And one other thing she mentioned was that she cried every night because she missed her Virginia family so much. So that was interesting to find in those records at the IHS. So a little bit of background about the Ballards. Aaron and Nancy are here at the bottom of the screen. And these are mostly Nancy Pearson's ancestors. So Aaron, he was married before Nancy, and he had lived in Logan County, Kentucky in 1822, and they divorced about 1825. And Logan County, Kentucky is about south central Kentucky, right at the Tennessee state border. So in 1822, he had been out in the Kentucky wilderness. He was familiar with it. And he had returned to Virginia, met Nancy, and married her in 1832. Let me see. An uncle of Nancy's, Benjamin Pearson, had moved to Meade County, Kentucky at some point before 1833. And Meade County, Kentucky is just south and west of Louisville, Kentucky. And Benjamin, we know, worked as a flatboat river conductor. He rode up and down the Ohio River. So we know that he was familiar with the territory west of the Appalachian Mountains. And finally, Nancy's grandmother, Catherine, unknown maiden name, married to William Joseph Hickman. We know that these two moved to Preble County, Ohio, along with their youngest daughter, Mary Ann, who was Nancy's aunt, and they were roughly the same age. Mary Ann, 1 year older. Mary Ann married David Harder in Preble County, Ohio. Preble County, Ohio is just east of the Indiana state line, and east of Henry County. So kind of midway through the state, but very close to Henry County. So we know that this part of the family had been in Ohio. So I'm thinking there's some ways here that they were familiar with travel. This family writing letters back home, Benjamin writing back home, and Aaron himself being familiar with the Kentucky wilderness. So I looked at a map and I found Franklin County, Virginia, and Henry County, Indiana, point A and point B. And that map is from 1819, a little before they traveled. And then I looked at a map from today. I used Google Maps. And just as someone walking, it would take about 154 hours if you walked a straight line. So hypothetically, I thought what route would they most likely have taken? Did they head north to the National Road? It was in a lot better condition than the Wilderness Road in Kentucky, and they would miss most of the Appalachian Mountains. Or did they use the Wilderness Road in Kentucky to reach Benjamin Pearson? Aaron would have been familiar with that, but it would have been through the mountains, and the Wilderness Road at that time was in fairly rough condition compared to the National Road. And they had the Indiana ancestors who arrived pre-1822. So what route did I think they used? And that's why I chose to study this. And there are two main types of migrations. There's cluster migration, where you have a group of people moving together, interrelated families or folks who share the same religion. And then there's chain migration, where some of the menfolk would head out, they'd scout out the new land and stake their land, and then they would return home for the family and move them back. So it's a little bit of both of these, I think, as far as my ancestors go. So their options for travel were pretty much by foot, horse, or wagon. And I think they probably came along the National Road or the Cumberland Pike, or they went to the Ohio River. And from the Ohio River, they could have hopped into use Canal system. And there's a little picture of the two-wheeled cart and the two horses. I don't think theirs was as fancy as that, but it's the closest picture I could find. So these are some of the colonial roads east of the Appalachians. And the one that I was looking at is the Great Valley Road, which actually began in Philadelphia and came south through Virginia. And the Ballards were right around Roanoke. That's where they lived. So they had easy access to the Great Valley Road, which would take them to the Wilderness Road or to the National Road. And these are the two routes: north to the National Road and then west to Indiana. And that would be 634 miles walking, or west through the Cumberland Gap to the Wilderness Road, to the Ohio River, to the Whitewater Canal. And that was 580 miles. So yeah, it's kind of either or. Let's see, let me move this a little bit. The Cumberland Gap, that had been there. That was even ancient in 1832. And they estimate that between 200 and 300,000 settlers passed through the Cumberland Gap before 1810, which that just boggles my mind. But it was a way to get through these mountains. And the Wilderness Road it came northwest up to Louisville. And I think Aaron Ballard was familiar with at least this part of the route from Virginia to the Cumberland Gap, and then Nancy's uncle was familiar with the Wilderness Road because that leads right up to his hometown. So they have some familiarity there. But then the Wilderness Road after 1818 was used less because of the National Road. So again, it's kind of a toss-up, 50-50. The Great Wagon Road, that's the one that comes from Philadelphia southwesterly. And I noted, let's see, the big black star is where the Ballards are, and the blue star is where the National Road began. So they could have taken the Great Wagon Road right up to about Hagerstown, Maryland, and picked up the National Road in 1832. And by 1832, the National Road had made its way over to about Preble County, Ohio. And the National Road, as it was being built, it provided work for people who were migrating. So families were migrating westward. The men and the boys could find work helping build the road through here as they moved west. And if they liked the land, they could always decide to stay. The blue stars where the Ballards wound up. So the National Road, it's kind of sad. This picture is the Huddleston farmhouse. It used to have a National Road exhibit in the lower floor. The farmhouse and its land, it's been sold to a private party. It was a part of Indiana Landmarks, and it's been sold. And earlier I had visited and seen the National Road exhibit. That was really neat. So I'm hoping they've either moved the exhibit somewhere where people can still see it. Yeah, hopefully it's saved. The trail endpoints in Henry County are listed here. And if you want to learn more about the National Road in Indiana, I've added the website here. And this whole program of slides I can make available after the presentation in PDF form, or I'll just put it out there on Facebook for folks so you can get the links. And this summer, I had the pleasure to visit upstate New York, and I got to ride on the Erie Canal. I had never even considered canal transportation when I first started looking into how the Ballards got to Indiana. Indiana has the Whitewater Canal, and they have the Erie Wabash Canal, both of which are defunct now. But there are still traces of those left in Indiana. So while I was in New York on the Erie Canal, I shot a couple of short videos of how the lock system works, because I had never really studied it or looked into it. But canals are basically man-made artificial rivers to move people from one area of land to another and other belongings or goods from one place to another. And that moves them from higher to lower ground. So that was quite interesting. I'm going to start these little short videos of how the water raises your boat inside the lock. It's pretty interesting. So you can see in this one, the wall in front of us, the water has to raise the boat up to over that wall. And these are the gates of the lock. And in this video, you can watch the water as it moves up the rungs of the ladder. I thought that was just so fascinating. And one thing we learned on the Erie Canal was watercraft still use the Erie Canal to go from Canada south to Florida and back again. I found that pretty interesting. Okay. So the Whitewater Canal, I started looking into that because I thought that might be a consideration. It is this little red line over here on the east side of Indiana, going from Lawrenceburg up to Hagerstown. And where you see Cambridge City, that is where Aaron and Nancy met her aunt, Mary Ann Harder. They had moved from Preble County, Ohio, over here to near Cambridge City, which is just on the other side of Henry County, into a little settlement called Simon's Creek. And that's why I wonder if the Ballards took the National Road to come straight over here. But then the Whitewater Canal is also a consideration because they could have met her uncle Benjamin down around Louisville and rode up the Ohio River to just about Cincinnati and picked up the Whitewater Canal. Uncle Benjamin Pearson, he died in 1833. They think due to a cholera outbreak. So if the Ballards did come through this way in 1832, they just missed the cholera. So, that was probably a blessing in disguise. But, I also learned the Whitewater Canal. It was being built as the Ballards came through. So I don't think they would have actually used it. But again, it could have been Aaron could have used that to earn money to make their way up on foot to around Cambridge City. And this is a little YouTube video. I won't play it here. It's about, I think, 5 minutes long. But the link's at the bottom. This is about the Whitewater Canal and how Irish men from mostly Cincinnati are the ones who dug out the Whitewater Canal. And that was going on about 1833, 1834. And when I found this little video, I found that interesting because I have an ancestor who wound up in Cincinnati and was married there about 1844, and he was an Irishman. So I'm curious if maybe he worked on the canal. That's something, that's kind of a tangent I'm going to have to work on. But this is very interesting. It's on historyinyourownbackyard.com, and it's under Whitewater Canal. So, and I think it's Lawrenceburg, Indiana, is where they looked at some of the old locks that you can still see remnants of. And I found these images where folks could buy stock in the canal company early in Indiana. Of course, the canal companies ran out of money and were kind of taken over by the railroads. So they were short-lived, really, for transportation. But there is some interesting history behind the canal companies. And there are this article I left a link to has so much great information that it would be its own program in itself. Like first person stories about riding along the canal, and just very interesting. And then at the Historical Society in Henry County, we have this little book. It's called The Navigator, and it was published in 1811. And this is the little tag on it. It gives directions for the immigrants coming by flatboats down the Ohio and other rivers. It was like the Rand McNally of the 1800s. And this is a picture from inside of it. There are all kinds of little sketches and descriptions of the towns along the Ohio. This is its full name and its author. If you want, I think you can find versions online to look at, and a picture of the index, like it talks about Cincinnati and different forts and the Great Miami River, Gallipolis in Ohio. Let's see, the Allegheny, all kinds of neat stuff. That's just the first part of the index. So which way did they take? Did they go north to the National Road, or did they go west through the Cumberland Gap? So it's kind of a toss up. You know, I think, well, they probably did the National Road, but then I think, well, no, they could have gone through the Cumberland Gap. I'm still 50-50 on it. I'm going to have to keep doing some digging to see if I can find records of them in either Kentucky or Ohio during that time and try to finally find an answer. But so that's kind of how I wandered into this, is just learning more about my ancestors. And I just want to thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck on your journeys. And if you do need any assistance in East Central Indiana, please feel free to reach out to me. I have my information here. And I also wanted to shout out to the Indiana Genealogical Society for hosting me on the first Facebook Live of 2023. And to learn more about the organization, or to join, or to volunteer, there is the website address. I serve with John Marie as I'm the new recording secretary. I've been a volunteer since 2015. And I also am the chair of the membership and publications committees. And I have a great time volunteering and giving back to the community. And I learn a lot being a part of this organization. So it'd be great to have some of you join if you so desire, and volunteer with this. The more the merrier. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Kay.
Sure.
This was really, really good. And I'm hoping it'll encourage others to look deeper into how their ancestors traveled, So it was very, very good. Thank you very much. And it is recorded, so it will be on Facebook to rewatch as many times as you like, or to share with others. We also have next month, we're going to actually do 2 Facebook Lives. February 4th, we're doing Once a Hoosier. I always say it wrong. Hoosier blog.
Hoosier,
it's my accent, I'm sure. Yeah. And so not everybody knows about the blog. So we're excited to have Jen Alford coming and talking about it, and how you can contribute, and how you might be able to find out your family history on there. And then February 7th, if you've not heard of deadfred.com, he finds pictures that he'll tell us more about it, but he comes across pictures that he's trying to find the original owners for. And you never know, he might have your ancestors.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. So he'll tell us exactly how to go about, using his site and that. But so we have two exciting ones, and I will be posting on Facebook about them. And then we have some other great ones planned throughout this year. Our hope is to do it once a month. And like Kay said, she was our first for this year. And so we're very excited to kick off again.
And John Marie, you're actually in New York.
Yes, I am in New York, and actually talking about the canals, my goal is to start kayaking on them. So
cool.
yeah,
Neat.
and I did find that my ancestors did travel on the Oswego Canal.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Neat.
So it's a neat experience.
It was really neat riding down the Erie Canal through and experiencing the lock mechanism. It's like, how did they figure that out?
And I mean, it was so much work digging it all out.
Yes, and understanding the pressure and raising the boats. The Whitewater Canal in Indiana, it, I guess, begins up around Hagerstown and goes south and down to Lawrenceburg. And I guess it's a 400 and some odd feet drop from.
Really?
Yeah, it actually lowers you down. And I mean, I know southern Indiana is a lot more hillier than central and northern. So, but yeah, that's one of the little things I found out about when I looked into the Whitewater Canal.
Yes.
So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. People need to consider that when they think about their ancestors traveling. And then I know you can look, I went to the museum in Rochester, New York, and they actually had the rates of
cool.
what it would cost them. And so if you compare the rates from going on the canal to the railroad, you might be able to determine if your ancestors could afford one way or the other.
Right.
So
interesting. That interesting one on my Ford side of the family, they were actually in New York in Genesee County. He was born 1809 and left there about 1830 and went to the Ohio River, married. And so that was about 1832. So he might have crossed paths with the Ballards now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But he went down the Ohio River to southern Indiana and he bought stock in one of the canal companies.
Oh, really?
And maybe not stock, but land.
Yeah.
Kind of around Terre Haute, Indiana.
Okay.
And that was in between 1835 and 1855. So they might have crossed paths.
They could have.
I haven't even thought about that. That's very interesting.
Well, one thing about the canals, like I know, and I'm sure it was an issue down there, is they would decide the best route. And then on some people's land, they would actually do the canal straight through people's property.
Wow.
And it actually ended up would create issues because if you had a huge piece of farmland and they put it in the middle of your farmland, to walk to the next bridge or whatever, you'd have to travel like an hour or so out of your way just to get to the other side of your land. So there's so much history on the canal to explore.
That may have produced like civil court records.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few here in New York, so I wouldn't doubt that there's probably some down there too in Indiana.
Yeah, especially they're cutting through your land, your means of a living. So yeah, it's interesting. So
yeah, it is. Absolutely. This was really great. Thank you.
I have some more looking to do. I just scratched the surface, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the National Road. Since it runs through Henry County, it's always been a part of my life. And we actually there's a section in West Central Indiana, I think Putnam County, the original road. I don't think you can drive on it, but you can walk up and see the actual National Road.
Oh, really? Because I have ancestors from Putnam.
Yep.
So
I think it's Putnam.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's barricaded off, but it's marked.
Okay.
It'd be on that National Road Indiana website.
Right.
I think that's
And
where I saw
I
it.
did share the link in the comments if anyone,
Okay, cool.
wants to click directly. And I also shared the link to the video you posted for the
Awesome.
Whitewater Canal.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
Cool.
but
Great.
yep, this was fantastic. Thank you.
A lot
And
of fun.
let me double check one more time, make sure there's no other questions. I think. Nope. Sean said, thank you, Kay. Nice presentation and good information to research.
You're welcome. Most welcome.
So, and then if we get any other comments or whatever, we'll check in the next, 24 hours or whatever. And
Yep.
I'll forward those questions to you if we get those, but
Awesome.
well, thank you very much. And we hope to see everybody again on the 4th, hopefully.
Sounds
And
good.
hope you guys all had a great holiday, and wherever you are, stay warm.
Yeah. We're actually in the 60s today because you were talking about you're under a blizzard watch again.
Yeah, we're under a winter watch. We're like in the, I think we're just under 30 right now. So
yeah, we're in the 60s today. We had thunder last night.
Oh no.
Thunder, yeah. So, and then at Christmas time, we had kind of blizzard conditions, not a lot of snow, but the temperatures were just the wind chill and the temperatures and the wind,
Yeah, you add that wind and it changes everything.
It froze our water heater. We had we had our cold water, but we didn't have hot water for about 3 days. And as soon as the temperature reached 32, it started working again. Thank goodness. So,
yeah, see, we're used to that weather up here.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, now 60 degrees on January 3rd, that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
I don't ever recall it being this warm. So,
well, enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, it's going to drop off here in a couple of days.
Yeah, really.
So hopefully you guys don't get hit again.
I'm just expecting it. I mean, I think we've had over 6 feet of snow this whole winter season so far. So
we've had maybe 6 inches.
Yeah.
So, oh golly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we came up there this summer, and my son and I we saw Niagara Falls and the Erie Canal, and we love that area of New York.
Yeah, I haven't even been over there yet. Like, but I need to go to Buffalo because I have ancestors there too. So
yeah, so I love that. Oh, we went to oh gosh, a living history museum. Is south of Rochester. No, south of Rochester. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But we had a great day. It was perfect weather. We went in the fall, and but if you're from Indiana, it's a lot like Connor Prairie. So people from Indiana
we'll get that.
But it's like the New York version, and that's where I learned about hops, how the hops industry was a huge thing in New York.
Yeah.
Learned a lot about that. So yeah, a lot of great stuff in New York and Indiana.
Yeah. All over the place.
Yeah.
So much history.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. So much to learn.
Yep. And we just got to keep learning, and our family history is never done. There's always more stuff to explore.
So true. So true. Oh my goodness. So much untapped. I mean,
yeah.
Even at the Historical Society, I haven't seen everything. There's still we're undecorating from the holidays.
Yeah.
And I was in one room and I thought, I need a couple new things to set on this table. And there was a hutch cupboard, and I opened it up, pulled out some little antiques that I've never actually looked at and set them out.
Really?
So, yeah. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
No, I'm always looking for something new around there, and it never disappoints.
Yeah. No, I think that's anywhere, because I know I ran into a whole pile of in Henderson County, New York, I was helping at the society going through boxes, and I found a whole bunch of dog records
Oh my.
for people getting their dog license from like the
Mhm.
1800s. I'm like, who would have
Yep.
thought?
Oh yeah. We have some in Henry County, little slips of paper for their
Yeah.
dog tags
Yeah.
that someone found them and we saved them. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that might be the only record that your ancestor was there
Yeah.
at some point.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's all important. You,
Everyone just has to keep looking. You
yeah.
never know, and keep checking back.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell everybody.
Yep. Yep.
People are finding things in attics and basements, and
Oh yeah.
they bring it into the societies and they're like, here you go. And it's a
I know.
whole bunch of new stuff.
I know. It's like a gift.
Yeah.
Someone dropped off a photo album full of photos from the late 1800s. No names, not a single name. And well, I take that back. There was one last name, and in our files we had one piece of paper about this family, and I had to go online and do some work, and it turned out the person had been born in Missouri, which a lot of the pictures were had a photographer in Missouri.
Yeah.
He had come back to Henry County, Indiana. So this was all his family. And so because I was on the verge of sending it to Missouri, and I did a little research online and found he was actually lived here until his death. So it stayed with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really neat. But yeah, it was just dropped off. I don't even know who dropped it off. Someone found it and didn't want to toss it out and brought it to us.
Yeah.
So
well, it's just like Bibles too. You don't know where the family Bible's going to end up, and then
exactly.
Society. Yeah.
Yep. It's untelling sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so everyone needs to take this as a lesson. Like, just keep searching.
Yep. And if you don't feel right throwing something out, that's okay. Just bring it to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can pretty much find a home, especially for pictures and documents.
Yep.
Those are just hugely important. So yeah, it's it's a great place to volunteer and work at.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So and when you volunteer, you learn so much more too.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yeah.
And I help people use like Ancestry and Family Search to find their records,
right.
because I only have so much at the Historical Society, and then you kind of have to branch out. So,
right. Yeah.
So yeah. And if someone's not here in Indiana, they can contact me and I'll go and run to the courthouse and do the research. I'm familiar with that in the counties around me. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it pays to know people within the societies, and then they know exactly where to go.
Exactly. So yeah, that's it's it's a great it's a great hobby, and it's a great profession.
Yeah. And it's a lifetime journey once you start it.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic, and I'm so excited we're doing this again.
Yes. So yep, that's great.
All right. Yep. Well, we hope everyone has a good evening. And like you said, we know how to get a hold of Kay, so we'll forward whatever we need to Kay. And
sounds good.
All right. Great. Successful first live.
Yay.
We did it. We're on the road again.
Yeah. Looking forward to next month.
Yes. It'll be
great.
good. We're going to do, so far we have the Civil War Society is going to be coming in March. And then Territorial Guards, we're going to have Joy Neighbors is going to join us to talk about cemetery headstones. And then we have a presentation on organizing your family photos for the future.
Oh yeah.
So like digitizing
That's
that. So
great
got some
topic.
great ones coming up.
Awesome. I look forward to them.
Yeah, and I will get them posted all on Facebook so everyone has a heads up on when they're going to be.
Great. Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We'll catch up with you soon.
All righty.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.